Welcome to the Foxy Property Chat podcast. I am Jake Shorter, and for today, at least, I will be your host, and hopefully for many more episodes to come. We've got a couple of episodes already up on the podcast, little interviews, snippets from some of the audio snippets from some videos. I realised though that we hadn't actually put out anything on the podcast that really explained what the Foxy Property Chat podcast is, what its purpose is, what we'll be doing with it. So that's what today is. It's me talking directly to you guys and explaining a little bit of who I am, who we are as a business, and what this podcast is going to be about. So without going any further, without wasting any more time, let's get straight into it. The purpose of this podcast really, and there's a few. The first one, though, is we are a small business ourselves, Foxy Home Staging. We're going on 2 years now. My wife, Phoebe, and I are the owners and operators of the business. We have a team around us, and I'll get into a bit of that in a minute. But we, as small business owners, are still learning a lot every day on the job. So there's a lot of things that we don't know when it comes to running a business, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who is in that situation. There'll be others that can relate to it. And so the podcast is really an opportunity for us to learn, ask questions of others, successful business owners in the real estate industry, some that are still on a similar journey to us, and kind of having a chance to learn from each other, and ask questions, talk about the issues and things that we're facing. So that's kind of a big one. Another reason is that we just want to use this almost as a way to record or document our journey as a small business. As I kind of am sitting here today, and as I mentioned, we're a couple of years in, so there's some things that we're starting to learn, plenty that we still are trying to learn as we go, and it's selfishly a pretty cool way to maybe look back in the years to come and look at how much we've grown and how far we've come. So, and hopefully taking some of you guys along with us. So there'll be others out there that can relate, and hopefully we can kind of bring you along on our journey, and maybe get in touch with us and we can share some of the journey with each other. So there's a couple of reasons there. And obviously right now you're listening to me. In the future, we're going to get these successful business owners and others on the similar sort of path and get them to talk about the things that they faced, hopefully get some answers and things that we can think about, put into action in our business that can help us maybe avoid some of the things that they faced, and all get some value out of it. And I guess selfishly as well, the questions that I want to ask other people and also the business owners that I want to talk to, and I've got some great ones that I won't mention now because I'm still trying to figure it all out. We're in a few discussions to figure out timing and whatnot, but there are some people that are doing some really interesting things in their businesses, mostly home staging at this point, but businesses in the real estate industry can be anyone from the stylists to photographers, videographers. It might be the real estate agents themselves. Essentially, they're all small business owners, and anyone connected to the real estate industry. So I would like to talk to all of them, but selfishly, as I started saying, I want to ask the questions that are relevant to us, the things that I would like to know that I can see that they're doing differently or something interesting, and that we might be able to bring into our business in some way. Because I kind of figure if I've got a particular question, there's a good chance that others out there will have that same question, so it's worth asking. So in terms of the format, what we're going to be doing, a lot of it will be interview driven. I want to talk to other people and as I say, get some of their knowledge and expertise to share with you guys. But outside of that, you might get a few episodes like this where it's me kind of just talking directly to you. We'll get some audio from some of the videos that we put together as a business. Cody in the background, our media coordinator, putting a lot of that together. If there's some interesting audio and some useful bits that we've gotten out of that, we'll get that up on the podcast as well. So look, it's going to change. It's quite variable, and hopefully you kind of like what you hear and what we're putting out. I thought what I might do to start with, now that I've gotten that first little bit over and done with, is to talk a little bit about Foxy Home Staging to give you some context as to where we are in the kind of business growth phase. We, as I said, started a couple of years ago, and the reason, and firstly, so a question that we get every now and then is where the name Foxy came from, Foxy Home Staging. Phoebe came up with it, my wife. It's not really based on anything in particular other than we wanted something that was kind of memorable, but also I don't know, a little play on words, Foxy, kind of stylish, vixen, sexy, things like that, I guess they were kind of some of the words that were thrown around. So we liked Foxy Home Staging, and it's really stuck. But the reason or the place that the business started, what drove that is that Phoebe and I have done in the past a little bit of experience with renovation. We actually did a subdivision and renovated a property, and we actually had it styled for sale at that time. It's probably going on 3 or 4 years ago now. We loved the impact that the styling had, and Phoebe, being kind of design-minded already, really kind of watched what was happening, really liked the idea. And when she came to actually designing another property, from everything from fixtures to fittings and everything on paper before it was built, so she kind of designed all of that, she just loved the whole process. So it was always in the back of her mind that maybe that would be an opportunity one day to go into this industry. We also, and I guess to skip ahead a little bit, we got that opportunity when Phoebe went on maternity leave with our eldest son, and then she decided somewhere during that leave that she didn't really want to go back to her previous role, and we thought this would be a good opportunity. So we started the business, and the way that we, right from the start, decided to kind of build it and put ourselves out there was we wanted to fix the things that we felt were not quite right in the styling industry from an experience point of view. So when we actually had somebody else style our home, what we didn't like about it. And they were just little things like the lack of flexibility, the having long lead times, having to book everything in well in advance, things that might not be issues to a lot of people, but payment up front. When you're selling a home and you have marketing costs and other things, maybe you have little small reno, new carpet painting, those sort of things, it can be quite a costly thing to sell a home. So we knew that would turn some people off, even the idea of styling, and even agents. We know of a lot of real estate agents that don't even mention staging to their clients, their sellers, because they just know that they're going to struggle even to get payment for advertising, let alone something else like styling. So little things like that, we right from the start looked at it and said, we need to make this easy for people. And if there's if we can think of some reasons why people might not be using home staging, we wanted to address that. So that's been inbuilt in our business right from the start, and it still drives a lot of the decisions we make. Fast forward, we now 2 years later, and I should say Phoebe started the business the first kind of 12, 16 months. It was her, and she brought on a full-time stylist, and then another one kind of 4 months after, or in the early days. I resigned from my full-time role outside the business about 12 months ago, and now it's Phoebe and I, and we have 5 full-time staff. So we've grown quite quickly. I'm sitting in what we call our podcast studio, but it's inside our warehouse. We have 2 warehouses side by side. The one that I'm in now is quite new. We've recently expanded, and we have a truck, and we do our own internal kind of delivery. So quite a lot has happened in 2 years, and we're quite proud of where it's at. But we have very big ambitions. We've got some exciting things that we would like to bring into the business and start doing. And look, we don't really we're not placing limitations on what we can achieve. So in terms of where we are in kind of our business growth, we think we're still quite early, and we've got a lot that we want to do. One thing though, I guess, so now that kind of gives a little bit of context as to where we are. What I thought might be interesting is to talk about a couple of the things just as I close out this episode, without trying to ramble too much, is a few of the things that are on my mind and mine and Phoebe's minds for the business, things that we're dealing with, thinking about, and having to kind of, thinking about is probably just a good way to put it. Some of them are things we've had to already deal with. Some are things that are coming up, and we're just trying to figure out the best way for us as a business to kind of deal with them. So the first one is one that every small business owner will know, and that's cash flow. The obvious side of it is when you're not doing a lot of work and you're quiet, you obviously need cash to pay for your overheads, things like salaries. If you've got staff, a warehouse, we're having to pay for that. We've got a truck that we're having to pay. So there are a lot of overheads, and obviously paying yourself as well. So when you're quiet, cash flow becomes an issue. But one thing that we didn't fully, we kind of knew it, but I don't know that we fully appreciated it until maybe spring last year, 2018, when our growth, we just had such a busy few months that I don't know that it caught us by surprise, but the fact that we were so busy and our suppliers that we hire some of our furniture off were so busy as well, not just us, the other stylists were busy, the property market was going so well that they didn't have enough furniture for us, and jobs that we'd locked in and promised dates, timelines and everything, we were all of a sudden looking at them and trying to figure out how we would actually get the furniture to make it happen. So it was the busiest we'd ever been, and yet we were trying to find cash because we couldn't complete these jobs any other way than going and buying furniture as we were going. So as I said, I don't know that we fully appreciated that when you are busy and growing, cash is just as much of an issue as it is when you are quiet and looking for work. So it's very up and down, and that's something that we are continually trying to figure out how to maybe smooth that where we can, be ready for the downs and the up kind of times. And yeah, we don't really have a good answer yet, but it's something that we're kind of constantly thinking about. Another one is recruitment. As we've been building out our team, and we're right now actually trying to recruit for one of our internal warehouse and delivery roles, and figuring out the best way to go about finding the right people. We are very protective of our team culture. It's very important to us. It's probably the thing that we say is our priority number one when it comes to bringing new people in. So finding the right people for our business is something that is always going to be a struggle, I think. And we, again, don't have necessarily the answer, but it's figuring out where should we be looking for these people, what sort of process do we need to go through to get them, in terms of submitting applications, resumes, interviews, all those things. So, and then vetting them once we get to that next stage where we want to meet them and get them in for a day, maybe to trial or something like that. So recruitment is something that we're always thinking about. And also maybe recruitment's part of it, but the other part of it is we've got such a great team now. How do we make sure that everybody is continually challenged, happy with what they've being asked to do and their role here at Foxy and getting the opportunities that they want. So again, something that's constantly on our mind. Probably one or two others. One of them is our branding and reputation is constantly top of mind, especially for, I mentioned we've got Cody, our media coordinator in-house. We want to be standing out in the industry. We're doing that through trying to put out a lot of useful and entertaining content. So we've got lots of videos coming out weekly. We've got, obviously, this podcast is a very great way, we think, to start that as well, putting ourselves out there. And we're starting to do other little things, like we had 2 weeks ago now, a property styling network event where we just got together a lot of the stylists in Brisbane in this warehouse for a bit of a few drinks, some food, networking, but also we had a couple of speakers who came in and gave us some information on, one of them was Facebook. From a business point of view, how you can use Facebook in different ways, including ads, but also just in terms of the setup of your Facebook business page. And then we had another lady in who spoke about Feng Shui and how you can incorporate that into the styling process. So we're doing little things like that. Part of it is branding. We want to be seen as a leader in the industry, and we obviously get a lot out of those sort of things from a networking point of view, but also the people we're going to get in for those, like the presenters, are people that can talk to us about things that we're interested in as well. So branding and reputation is something that we think is very important. It's a long-term strategy. It's something that we think, often we will do things, we'll put out videos, we will invest in certain, even Facebook ads. Some of the things that we're doing there aren't to drive sales, they're to really drive awareness of our brand and reputation. So a lot of what we're doing, I think, is long-term, and we will see the benefits of that in 6, 12 months, 3 years, things like that. So we're going to continually be doing that and looking for new ways to stand out in an industry that otherwise from the outside can look very, very same. It's hard from the outside to look at a whole bunch of stylists and home stages and really see how they differ. So we want to find ways to make that easy for people to recognise us as a brand. That's really the main ones that we're thinking about, and that I would like to start asking people questions in interviews and talking to other businesses. They're certainly not the only questions and issues that we're kind of going through at the moment, but they're the first that came to mind as I was kind of taking my notes for this episode. So that's it. That's all the time I want to take up at the moment. Hopefully this gives you a bit of context as to where we're at in the kind of business phase, business cycle, and also what the purpose of this podcast is. So I hope you're excited about listening to some of the people that I'm going to be speaking to over the coming weeks and months. If there are any people, business owners, anywhere in Australia that are in the real estate industry, I would love for you to get in touch with me and let me know who they are, and maybe an introduction if you know them. We'll be looking for some interesting people that are doing some interesting things and standing out in the industry. So please get in touch if that's the case. Otherwise, if you like this episode, if you're interested in listening to more of the Foxy Property Chat podcast, want to hear about from some of the people we'll be interviewing in the coming weeks, then please hit subscribe wherever it is that you are listening to this, and please drop me a note if you have any questions. Thanks. We'll talk to you later.